So we've cut out a nice rectangular hole for our telephone jack or our UP5 panels. We now want to recess the faceplate of the telephone jack or the UP5 panels below the surface of our side piece. Now if we insert our UP5 or the telephone jack into our hole, it's sticking up about 1/8 of an inch above the surface, and this could cause us problems when we transport the modules, and it really doesn't look all that nice sticking up. So what we're going to do is we're going to recess around the hole where the faceplate or the UP5 panel goes so that it's flush with the wood. Now it's going to take a bit of extra work, however the end result is going to be worth the effort. So the first step that I do is I insert my UP5 panel into the hole that I've just cut out, and I take my pencil and I draw a line around the perimeter of the UP5 panel. Do the same thing with the telephone jack. Then I take my pen and my T-square and I mark off the two vertical sides. I want that recessed hole to be parallel with the sides here and with the top and bottom. And I do the same on the bottom line. So now I have a rectangle drawn around the hole that I've just cut out, and this is where I'm going to cut out my recess. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some squiggle lines inside here to indicate that that's what I got to cut out. There have been times when I didn't do that and we had one of those oops or oh shit moments. So this will make sure that we are cutting into the proper area. One done. Let's do the next one. And again, we insert the UP5 panel into the hole and we hold it in place. Draw a pencil mark around the perimeter. Take our T-square so that we are 90 degrees exactly. When we're holding that UP5 panel in place, it can wiggle around and we could end up with our recess a little bit this way or a little bit that way. We want it nice and parallel. And again, the top line, making sure we're parallel with the top, and the bottom line. It also gives us a good guide for when we're routering out the recess. And again, squiggle marks telling us very clearly we cut out this. 8 done. Sorry, 2 done. 8 more to go. So our next step is to chop out the area inside this rectangle 1/8 of an inch deep so that our telephone jack or our UP5 panel is nice and flush with the surface of the wood or slightly below the surface. There are several ways that we could do this. We could take a chisel and mark around the perimeter and then chisel it out. We could take a utility knife and or even some X-Acto blades and sandpaper. What I'm going to use to recess that faceplate is a router. I've installed a 1/8 inch router bit. It's a 1/8 inch diameter, and I've set it up so that it will plunge 1/8 of an inch into the wood. Now, when a router is spinning at 3000 RPM, you don't want any movement, so I've clamped the workpiece down at both ends, and I'm going to use another one of the side pieces to provide some support for my router. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the router and I'm going to plunge it into the corner and turn it off. So let's do that first step. Turn the router on. And I've turned it off. You want to make sure that the router comes to a complete stop before you move the router. I've ruined too many pieces doing it this way. I'm now going to take a cleat. A cleat is simply a piece of wood with an edge fastened on so that I can then put it in flush against the edge here. That's going to give me a nice 90 degrees. And I don't like free-handing routers, so this is going to give me a guide to come in nice and straight. So I'm going to turn the router on. I'm going to pull it towards me until I reach this bottom parallel line. Wait until the router comes to a complete stop. I'm going to remove the cleat. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here in this corner. I'm going to turn the router on, I'm going to plunge it in, and I'm going to turn it off. And now that it's come to a complete stop, I'm going to put my cleat in alongside. I've got to give myself a little more space here. Here we are. And clamp the cleat in place. Make sure that it's flush up against this edge. Again, turn the router on and pull it towards me until I reach this bottom horizontal line. Okay, so I now have my two vertical lines of my rectangle routed out. The next step would be to router out this perimeter on the two horizontal lines, but seeing as how I have my workspace all set up for the vertical operation, I'm going to proceed and router out the vertical lines for the other 9 pieces. We're now routering out the last of the vertical lines on the side pieces for our telephone jack and the UP5 panels. Things have gone pretty smoothly. Fasten the workpiece in place, securely in place. Need a little support. Turn the router on and plunge it into the corner. Bring it to a stop. Take our cleat. Bring it alongside. We always place the cleat to the outside of that rectangle, just to make sure that we don't wander outside the rectangle. Turn it on, pull it down to the horizontal line. Turn the router off. Remove the cleat. And plunge the router into the top left corner. stop, bring the cleat alongside, make sure that the cleat is flush with this edge, turn the router on and pull her down to the bottom line. Next up, we're going to install the router edge guide so that we can router out the lines that are top, bottom, parallel to the top and the bottom. We've installed the router edge guide to our router, and this is going to allow us to router out a straight line parallel to the edge rather than freehanding it through. So we're going to turn the router on, and we're going to drag our router from left to right along the top horizontal line, and then turn it off. And then we are going to undo the clamps that are holding the side piece firmly in place, flip it end for end, put the clamps back on, and then see how well our edge guide fits in on the top. Because we have located the holes for our telephone jacks in the middle that our top horizontal line and our bottom horizontal line are symmetrical about the center, so we just have to router out the top, turn the router on, and go from left to right. There we have outlined the area that we have to remove so that we can recess the faceplate of our telephone jack. We've set up our edge guide for our next piece, and again we're going to go from left to right. And we undo the clamps. Turn the side piece end for end. Clamp the work in place. We're going to outline the perimeter of the faceplate because we've got our edge guide all nicely set up, and if we were to stop and router out everything that's in the middle here, we'd be forever setting up our edge guide. So we're going to router out the perimeter of all of our side pieces, and then we'll router out the part that's left. So we've got the perimeter of each of the rectangles that we've drawn for the faceplate for our telephone jacks. We've now got that all nicely routed out. So now we're going to remove the wood that remains within that perimeter. We're going to do it by freehand, moving the router around and taking it out slowly. So we're going to take our telephone jack and just see how well it sits in here. There we go. Nice and flush. Good job. On with the next. We'll take a bit of sandpaper here, clean up the edges, a little bit on the recessed parts, and also into the hole, and that should work out quite nicely. On with the next one. We're going to do the same. Freehand. Another one done. Let's see how well the telephone jack fits. Put the wires all in. Oh, that looks good. On with the next one. We've got the holes for our UP5 panels and our telephone jacks nicely cut out and recessed so that they sit flush with the surface of our side pieces. We got a via. Our next step is to drill holes. I don't do this on purpose, you know, those vias come along any time of the day. 16 plus trains anywhere from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So we've got 6 screw holes at this end, 2 screw holes in the middle, 6 screw holes at this end, for a total of 14 screw holes for each side piece, 20 side pieces, and that's 280 screw holes we've got to drill. We better get started.